in terms of one of the individuals, and it's not to just, single out one. There are a lot of poor performances, but the one that obviously did stand out the most, we need to talk about Casemiro. And he was at fault for the first couple of goals, hooked at half-time. Are we seeing potentially the end of his Man United career?
He's got, 2 more seasons? So I not the end just yet. It'll probably clink on a bit longer. The whole situation is very, very sad. I've got to say, I know that his wife has been posting on social media about all his trophies and everything.
What do you make of that?
It's got nothing. It really annoyed me. It's got nothing to do with anything. Are those trophies going to make his legs move quicker? I don't think they are. The trophies have got nothing to do with it. Nobody denies that Casemiro has been a fantastic footballer for his nation, for Real Madrid. I remember when Ronaldo moved to from Manchester United to Real Madrid, I started watching Real Madrid a lot more. I've lived in Madrid. I went to El Clásicos. I've been to games. I've seen this guy play and what he can do. And he has given fans some amazing memories. And I remember that whole thing of just before he came to United, and was it the Brentford game that we lost 4-0? And he'd apparently texted his agent saying, let me fix it and everything. I think we've spoken about it before, about the things that he's being asked to do. Casemiro at Real Madrid has got Toni Kroos and Luka Modric with him, 2 of the most talented footballers in the world. That makes a massive difference. And Casemiro is not used to having to put in some of the work that he's doing.
Are we letting him down? So tactically, there's been reports from, a really good journalist, Andy Mitten. We all know who he is. Fantastic reporter and journalist, sort of claiming that Casemiro wasn't happy with tactics last season. Is he being exposed by a system? I saw Rio talk on his podcast, sort of saying, listen, and Owen Hargreaves, they're saying, if the environment is right for Casemiro and the setup is right, you can minimise his flaws and extenuate his strengths. And right now in this Man United midfield, not just him, Kobe's being hung out to dry, Bruno, it's not set up right. How much of it is, OK, Casemiro had a stinker and his legs are gone and this, that and the other, versus, well, he's still experienced, set the team up differently?
I get what people are saying with that, but at the same time, we shouldn't be depending on a 32-year-old that we've got to kind of make things work for him, if that makes sense. The end of the day, Casemiro on that pitch was getting the basics wrong. It was embarrassing. You were looking at the way that he was falling over and passing the ball to the wrong people, and it was absolutely horrendous. So I understand what people are saying, and maybe if United had more talented players in certain areas of the pitch, or the setup, the tactics were different, maybe he wouldn't be as bad. But the pass completion was 73%. That's not good enough. At the end of the day, the basics he was getting wrong. So that's where I would probably disagree with it. But I just think the thing with Manchester United now, it's becoming kind of like Arsenal at the end with Wenger. You're kind of pinning things on certain players. There was a lot of hope on, Mesut Ozil. There was a lot of hope on, there were certain players that were coming in and there was so much hope put on them. And with Manchester United, it's we're pinning things on certain players when really the team in general is not good enough. So I feel a bit sorry for him that a lot is being pinned on Casemiro, but at the same time, he simply was not good enough and he had to come off. And people saying he shouldn't have come off,
his confidence was shot. He had to come off it.
There was no other option.
Even though he's that experienced. I mean, look, we really don't want to have to be fast-tracking a youngster who's probably not quite there yet in Toby Collier.
That was bad,
But at the end of the day, Ten Hag even said it after the game, we needed legs. We needed someone who's going to run around. And there are a few fans, I have to say this, there were a few fans in Old Trafford. I don't know if you guys heard it, when Toby Collier gave the ball away a couple of times, a few oohs and ahs, and I'm like, this is a young kid who's just come on tour and he's got promising signs. He's been kept back a little bit, like Harry Amas, because they're not quite there yet. But he's had to come on because the senior pro couldn't pass to a red shirt and his confidence was shot. Don't get on his back. That's not what we do at Old Trafford. So I was a little bit disappointed. It wasn't everyone.
I agree with that.
But there was a few...
Like that.
No, I don't like that at all. But just on the Casemiro thing for me, look, we gave the ball away 44 times in that game. And it wasn't just him. No. What happened was when we was actually playing all right in the first 15, 20 minutes, he progressed the ball quite well. So did Bruno. We got into some decent positions, but then we started making bad decisions and forcing turnovers. And that's where it's like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because Erik ten Hag wants to build up with sort of this 3-1-6 formation, right? With so many players so far forward. As soon as people make mistakes in midfield, as soon as somebody gives the ball away or makes a silly decision, that's where I'm saying that is on the manager because forget Casemiro, mate. Ugate's supposed to be coming in here. You could have prime Kante. No one single player can plug these type of gaps. It's too big. And the risk versus reward when you don't have players who are absolutely technically sound. We don't have Frankie de Jong. We don't have Luka Modric. We don't have a Toni Kroos. You don't have a Rodri. You don't have high retention ball players. So you've got Bruno who wants to make the difference. You've got Kobe who's still finding his feet. And Casemiro has never been that player. So they're not good at that area of the pitch, and they're also not good at recovery runs. So now Erik's made us have a style that doesn't fit the players we have. There's no surprise that when we go with that 4-4-2 or 4-2-2 or 4-2-4 and be more compact, 2 false nines and bring it in a little bit, we were getting some results. Why? Because we were harder to play through. So I just think he's got a massive problem on his hands now because we're all hoping Ugarte can come in. Right,
and what if he's not even fit?
And Erik ten Hag has another thing he said, I'm not Harry Potter. He may take weeks, he may take months. Crookie, I mean, there's a lot for Erik ten Hag to unpack here. And it's about results, isn't it? But the pressure is intensifying. How do you think he has to react to what's going on? Because Ugarte to come in, he's already said, I'm not Harry Potter. He may need 2 weeks or months to even get up to speed.
Well, first and foremost, I don't think that was a particularly intelligent choice of phrase because it gives the media and us as pundits more opportunity to take the mickey out of him, really, because he's certainly not Harry Potter. Looks more like Dumbledore at the moment. So I'm not sure where he came out with that. But I agree with you. I think, pinning all our hopes on Ugarte, he's going to have to be a combination of Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets rolled into one
with Kante
to solve those midfield issues for Manchester United. Honestly, it's there's so much wrong. The third goal epitomised it. It was 4-2, that third goal. That simply should not be allowed to be happening. And that is on the manager. And that was one of the things that Ian Ladyman from the Daily Mail put on Ten Hag. When I think, again, Ten Hag tried to turn the conversation back with the journalist and said, well, what problems can you see? I think he was expecting Ian Ladyman to freeze in that moment. And instead, he listed all the problems quite eloquently. So this is a manager who clearly is floundering at the moment. And it's a team lacking in confidence. Casemiro being the prime example of that. Manchester United for the last decade has been the club where great players go to die. And we're seeing that happen with Casemiro at the moment. I agree with Angelina. I think it's really sad. And there's a lot of pressure on youngsters like Collier and Kobe Mainoo, who he got affected at the weekend, by the way. I'm a big Kobe Mainoo fan, as you know. But he started giving the ball away and getting caught out of position. So this is a scenario that simply cannot be allowed to continue. And as much as Ten Hag will say, well, we've got new players, need to bed in, for me, there is a fundamental coaching issue. And I don't want to say that, because I've been a big advocate of Ten Hag. I didn't want him to go after the FA Cup final. I didn't see a suitable replacement. But it's becoming difficult for me and other Manchester United fans to keep defending the indefensible. We cannot keep seeing performances like we saw at the weekend, and he expect to keep his job.